Today I'm going to talk about work-life balance of a business owner, entrepreneur. Frustratingly, I find that the majority of business owners with whom I come across seem to have got this wrong, and as a result of which are falling out of love with who they are and what they do. They're running into frustration. It's causing lots of angst either in the business or out of the business with family and friends and relations. And I often get asked, what does a good work-life balance for a business owner look like? So today I want to share 7 tips on how to be able to review and manage your work-life balance to get a better understanding of what's required for both you and the business in order that both of them can work effectively and in harmony. Now, it does start with a brief story that happened at the time of recording this 28 and a half, nearly 29 years ago, when Tim Berners-Lee gifted the World Wide Web. 30 years ago, we didn't have the internet, and as a result, it was very much a case of telephone and letter as means of communication, or the television and radio, magazines, articles. And then, over a period of about a decade, we evolved into this thing called the internet. As my nan used to call it, the interweb. And now we have 24/7, 365 connectivity through our mobile phone and smartphones, through our tablets, through the smartware, through the Internet of Things within our lives. I was taking a call a few minutes ago on my watch. It gives me reminders as to when to eat and hydrate throughout the day. We are constantly bombarded and barraged with stuff that seems to take up our 24/7. The amount of people I hear that, if I only had a 25th hour or an 8th day in the week. And the simple fact is that it doesn't matter whether you're Elon Musk or Richard Branson or somebody just setting out on day one of this new exciting journey. There are 24 hours in every day, and regardless of who you are, you can't buy back yesterday. You can't even buy back 20 minutes ago. It's about how we prioritise our time that determines as to whether it proves to be most effective for us or whether we are simply a slave to it. So I'd like to quickly share with you 7 thoughts on how to be able to get a far greater work-life balance in the 21st, 22nd century with connectivity and 24/7 demand on our time. And the number 1, or at least the first of these 7, is about being able to schedule. You see, first of all in business, we've talked a lot really with regards to being able to make sure that tomorrow's fully planned and that we've got a plan and a schedule and a goals to work to. And we're relatively good, or at least the majority of people are relatively good at being able to diarise their dates, to be able to plan ahead and determine as to what and where and when and why. And yet, we don't seem to do this outside of work. We don't seem to diarise our life. We only seem to do it 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And everything else fits in around it. Now, don't get me wrong. You might argue that workings to a regime is something so remote of that you thought that you would want to do as a business owner. Surely the whole purpose of being a business owner is for you to be able to decide. And the simple fact is I'm actually telling you to do that. In October each year, I sit down with my wife and we determine as to whereabouts we'd like to go on holiday for the next 12, 18 months. And we plan it in. We jot it down as to where and when we're going to go. We do that before we look at our work calendars to establish as to when are we going to work. Holidays for us is very important, so as to be able to schedule 4 or 5 or 6 holidays a year and determine as to where we'd like to go is really important for us. It's something that we work for. So we schedule that as a matter of priority. I love swimming. So I make sure that that's booked out in my day and I'm able to be able to go and do that pretty much every day. I try and get to the pool at least 5 days a week, preferably 6. It's important to be able to eat and hydrate. So like I say, I've got an app on my watch that prompts me to be able to ensure that I'm eating and hydrating at the right time schedule to be able to look after me as a person. The right fuel in, the right fuel out. So scheduling your life isn't about being able to be so regimed and doctorate that that there isn't any free time. You can schedule some free time. But planning ahead and determining as to what and where and when and why, determining if you want to go to the gym at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, then go to the gym at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. It's your choice. No one's going to stop you doing that other than your conscience telling you, oh, it's 2 o'clock, I ought to be in work. Well, it's funny that, because you never got to 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock last night and said, oh, it's 9 o'clock, I really ought to go home. The work gets done when it gets done. So the first and perhaps most important of these is to take your schedule away from the 9 till 5 and put it into the 24/7. And understand that scheduling everything, even if it is scheduled to do nothing, scheduled to sleep, scheduled to read a book, scheduled to take a walk, scheduled to drink water every 90 minutes. Having a schedule and prompts us to do the things that we should be doing at the time that we should be doing them helps us immensely to be able to keep on course and therefore remain motivated by the things that we're doing, because we're doing it when we know that we should be doing it. So number 2, and closely associated with this, is build a lifestyle into your company brand. Make your business around lifestyle. Understand that we are here and working to live and not living to work. So create an environment where that's possible, where flexi time allows for us to be able to continue to do what needs to be done, but done at the time that it needs to be done, and not specifically 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Because let's face it, if we're going to stick to that type of regime, the chances are we'd probably be better off going and getting a job and working for somebody else without the hassle and the worry of everything that comes with running your own business. So number 2 is create a lifestyle brand around who you are and what you do. And it doesn't matter what profession you're in. Break the norm. Set away from the competition. Do something different that sets you apart. Understand that life is for living and not simply to become subservient and chained to a desk and a phone. So number 3 is, again, closely associated with this, but a continuation from it, is to set boundaries. Make decisions prior to them happening as to what you are prepared to accept and compromise on and what you're not. If you've determined that it doesn't matter where or when or how or why, that you will go to the gym 3 times a week, then schedule that time and treat the gym as your VIP client for the times that you are attending it. Don't compromise what you've set out to achieve and then can't understand as to why it is that you've not achieved it. So set clear boundaries of what you are prepared to do and what you're not prepared to compromise, and work within those boundaries. Number 4, I like a lot. I think it makes perfect sense, and it's so important for you as a business owner. It's called switching off. Now, you might argue as to what's this got to do with work and life balance, and the simple fact is you will get so much more work done if you spend some of the time not working, if it's not continually happening, because eventually you will wear down and wear down and wear down and wear down, and you simply can't operate at 100%, 100 miles an hour, 100% of the time. So schedule sometimes to switch off. Schedule sometimes to go and do other things. Like I say, I love swimming. The moment I'm in the pool and my head goes under the water for the first time, everything just switches off. And for the next hour, I can just concentrate on my cardio, on my breathing, almost on a meditative state whilst I'm making progress through the water. It invigorates me for the day. It gives me so much of what I need in order to be able to apply my thoughts and processes to the business far more effectively than simply turning up and trying to do the do. Certainly during lockdown and not having the abilities to be able to get in the pool as regularly as I would have wanted, and had to result and find some outdoor wild swimming, has been a significant challenge to me because of the impact I've noticed it has on my daily life and my enthusiasm for it. I'm really looking forward to in a week or so's time now, where the gyms reopen again and we're able to start getting back into the pool in consideration of COVID and social distancing. But number 4 is all about switching off, being able to take some time out the business to be able to do something for you, and understanding that the impact that has is huge on enabling you to be able to do more within the business. Number 5 is about being able to sit and establish as to what it is that actually motivates you to do what you do. You see, there are a number of things that we are required to do in work that perhaps we shouldn't be doing. And what I mean by that is stay in your lane. Isn't it interesting that when we do analysis, and we do analysis a lot with many of our clients, we invite them to be able to do this at least once a year, and today I'm encouraging you to be able to do it also, is to actually honestly and accurately record one full day in your working life. Honestly, by recording every action that you do, or thought, or idea, or suggestion, or interruption, and accurately record what happened. Busy writing email, phone rang, checked phone, determined I'll call them back later, interrupted, carried on with email. Our thought process was interrupted, we made a decision, we came back to doing what we're doing. The simple fact is if you've designated time to be writing emails, then the phone should be switched off or to divert, so as not to distract our attention, so you can remain in the zone whilst doing the job in hand. It's probably taken about 6 or 7 minutes of disruption of our thought process. Oh, where was I? Let me just quickly reread the last bit to determine as to... There's probably a 6 or 7 minute disruption period just by that simple one tone that goes off and draws our attention away from where we are right now. And if that happens 3, 4, 5 times in a day, you've automatically lost 30, 40 minutes of effectiveness simply by being disrupted by something that you chose not to answer in anyway. So find out what motivates you. I want you to be able to record a list of every single action that you take in one day. Now, don't get me wrong, I assure you that this will become the most impactful day of your career. You will be less impactful, you'll get less effective, less efficient, because you're continually interrupted what you're doing to write a note of what it is that you've been doing. I do this on a quarter-hour basis of every 15 minutes, just looking at the pad and saying, what have I done for the last 15 minutes? And just quickly noting, same as above, or scheduling the day and then confirming as to whether I've actually adhered to that schedule or not. However, there's a real reason for doing this, and I want you to be able to take 3 coloured pens to be able to do this effectively. Now, don't get me wrong, you can make the choice of the colour. I'm just going to give you an example of red, green, blue, but if they're not your colours, then go away and find some highlighters somewhere. But the first thing I want you to do is to give due considerations to your big, fat, hairy, audacious goal. And if you haven't already watched or listened to that, then I strongly recommend that you stop this and go and watch that first. But I want you to give due considerations to what it is that you want to achieve in your business and in life. What does success look like for you? And then look back at the list of things that you did and say, of this long list of the things that I did in the last 24 hours, how many of these do I still want to be doing once we achieve that level of success? So take a period in the future of what success might look like and what you want success to be, and then revert back to the list that you've got in front of you of the things that you've done in the last 24 hours, and take a red highlighter and just highlight all of the things on that list of the things that you still want to be doing when you are successful, when the business is successful. Now, once you've done this, look at the amount of things that you haven't highlighted. I've done this over 500-600 times now with different business owners in different sectors and different elements of the business at different stages of the business, and never once have they highlighted more than 22% of the things on that list. There are 78% of things that they're doing currently that they don't want to be doing in the future. I wonder how motivated they are to be doing the things now that they don't want to be doing in the future, and whether somebody else might be more motivated to do them if it was their job, if it was something that they were paid to do, or it was their profession or their motivator, they were doing in their lane. The best example of this I can possibly give is perhaps doing your own books, doing your own accounts for the business. Now, unless you're an accountant and you get paid to do people's accounts, why on earth would you spend any time doing your own accounts and books in the business when it's perhaps something that doesn't necessarily motivate? Don't get me wrong, the facts and figures that you get from it are probably very motivating, but actually doing the hard work, doing the data entries to be able to do them, that's not necessarily a motivating factor for me in my business. It's not something that I'm drawn to and think, oh, I can't wait to be able to do a load of monthly management accounts and check balances and consolidate with the bank statements. It doesn't float my boat. So why would I do something enthusiastically that I've got no real interest in? I want the end result. I want the data. I don't necessarily want to be doing the doing. Whereas in actual fact, I could outsource that or pay somebody else in my business. I've got a gentleman called Stuart who does it for me. But why would I not give it to somebody whose job it is to do that? Stuart is an accounts manager. That's what he does. So the next line is we take a blue pen, or in my example, we'll take a blue pen, and we'll identify all of the things that we haven't highlighted in red, all of the things that we don't want to be doing in the future, and we start to write a name against the person that could do them. Now, if you've already got people in your business, it's quite simply a case of identifying the people within your business that might be able to do that task. Don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for a Boy Friday, somebody to simply be able to pass all of the stuff that I don't want to do to. Because ironically, you pass it to somebody else and they become so dismotivated or unmotivated by it also, because it's not their motivator, it's not the amount of things that you do on your list, isn't the mass amount of things that they now wants to end up on theirs, that you'll end up with a long-term sickness absency and a redundancy letter, a resignation letter. It's more about being able to identify, I need someone to be able to do a social media campaign, I need someone to be able to design some graphics. Oh, Amanda's really, really good at graphics, I'll ask Amanda to do the graphics part of it. I need someone to be able to write the copy. Oh, I'm quite good at writing copy, so I'll do the copy bit of that. Amanda will put the graphics together for it. It's about being able to look at each individual task, which is why it's so important to do things honestly and accurately, and then to establish as to who within the business or who outside of the business, who might I be able to ask if they could do that for me. I'm looking for somebody to be able to help me do X at the moment. Is anybody competent at being able to do that? And it might be simply a case of having to ask somebody to do it. It might be a case of somebody informing them or advising somebody that becomes their new role and responsibility. It might be having to pay somebody some extra money to do it. It might have to be involve some training to teach somebody how to be able to do it. I'm not looking at the structure of it yet. I'm not determining as to what needs to happen in order for them to be able to do so. I'm simply identifying, if I don't want to do this anymore, who else within the business should be doing it or could be doing it. And then the green pen is, if I haven't found anybody yet within the business, is who outside of the business might I outsource this to? Who else could I approach as a business and say, can you do this for me? And then you can identify as to all of the things that you could pass off and get rid of. Now, yes, there's likely to be a cost involved in that, but ironically, I've just saved 78% of your day. Therefore, how much more of the stuff that you want to be doing have you now got the time to be able to do And will that generate enough incomes to be able to cover all of the things that you've outsourced to somebody else? So number 5 is all about what motivates you. Identify as to the things that you're really good at in business. Identify the things that you're currently having to do but not necessarily that motivated to do. And identify a means of being able to identify somebody else that would be more motivated to do the things that you do want to do, so you can stay in your own lane. Number 6 is a bit of a selfish one, but there is a real purpose to this. And it's you are number 1. You are the lead in your own movie. Nobody else is more important to you than you when it comes to what you want to achieve. It doesn't matter how dedicated your staff and your team are, they're no more dedicated to achieve the goals than your goals than you are. So make sure that you put you as a priority. You don't fit you in around everything else that happens. You've got to be able to say, in order to be at my best for everybody, I need to be at my best first for me. Which is why I swim. It's why I've got a little prompt that tells me I've got to finish this video shortly and go and have another drink. It's all of the things that enable us to be at the best that we can be by remaining constant and present and being in that moment at 100%. So make sure that you give yourself the priority that you deserve in order that you can be of service to others and be as competent as possible. And the final one, which ties into that, number 7, is simply being present. Not being interrupted, not being disrupted, not being somewhere else in mind, body and spirit. To being able to say that if I've scheduled my time, if I know that this is the thing that I ought to be doing and the time that I ought to be doing it in, switch off. Stop trying to multitask by doing all the other things in the back of your head whilst you're committed to doing something else. Be present in what you do. And I assure you, these 7 tasks will help you immensely in being able to cut through all the clutter and determine as to how to be able to have a better work-life balance. Sincerely hope that helps. I'll be really welcome any comments that you've got to be able to share regarding this, and if you're willing to, being able to share it amongst your own network and let other people know about the 7 tips also. That's Jay Allen from My True North. I look forward to being able to share a lot more with you real soon. Take care. Have a great day.